Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Roel Nieuwenkamp. I'm the chair of the OECD Working Party on Responsible Business Conduct. And I'm very honored to speak to you today, even though I would have preferred to be there in person. I'm asked to speak about the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises. And they're sometimes referred to as the grandmother of all standards related to corporate responsibility. And that's a good point because they're 40 years old this year. And they are quite a unique mechanism because it's a set of recommendations for companies, but it's a binding system for governments to set up a national contact point, which is a grievance mechanism for complaints against companies related to corporate responsibility. And this is a unique mechanism because in essence it's trying to help companies to get out of trouble, but also to help them if they got in trouble to solve their problems with, for example, trade unions, NGOs and local communities. And this is active in at least 46 governments because they have signed up to the OECD guidelines and they represent the bulk of the global economy. For example, in Latin America, all advanced economies are member of this of my committee. I was asked to speak a little bit more about the employment chapter, and I think that's an important chapter. And they also take the, well, I think 1/3 of all the complaints are related to employment issues. And even the first case in this system was an employment case. This is about, for example, forced labor. This is about child labor. This is about freedom of association. This is about health and safety issues for workers. So this is really a worker-oriented chapter. And that's not rocket science. But more importantly, maybe for the session you are working on today, is that also supply chain responsibility is related to this chapter. So in 2011 we found a multilateral agreement on what supply chain responsibility is looking like. And that means that you also are expected to look at what your suppliers are doing vis-a-vis forced labor and child labor, etc. So you're expected to influence your suppliers that they also behave according to these standards. And to do so, the concept is called due diligence. So you're expected to do due diligence on your suppliers, whether they are behaving according to these international standards. Basically, that means that you have to identify the risks in your supply chains, and of course that you have to prioritize the most severe risk for action. Then you have to prevent and mitigate these impacts, and finally you're expected to tracking these responses, but also to be open about it. So these critical steps are what due diligence means. And this is not a system about perfection. This is a system of continuous improvement. And I think a couple of things are important in this regard. First of all, this is way beyond auditing. So this is going way beyond the classic audit and compliance system, because this is a continuous process. So you have to do your audit, because you need audits, but then you have to do something about it, and you need to help the suppliers to build capacity to work according to these standards. So this is going beyond auditing. And very often in due diligence processes, you will not be able to solve all the problems in the world on your own as a company. So you will be forced and you will be expected to work together with other companies to solve these problems. For example, in forced labor, you cannot solve these issues alone very often. So you have to work together in multi-stakeholder initiatives or anything like that. So that's basically what due diligence is. The OECD has worked on due diligence in supply chains the last couple of years because it's such a challenging issue. And we have worked on specific sectors. So we've worked on due diligence guidance for the mineral sector. We've worked on guidance for the agricultural sector. We tried to finalize the due diligence guidance for the garment and footwear supply chains in November. So that basically provides the framework and a translation of what this due diligence expectation is for a specific sector. And for example, the minerals due diligence guidance is the real de facto standard for mineral supply chains. So it's not an easy thing to do. It's really challenging, but it's really urgent to do so. And I wish all the companies in Mexico the best of luck with their due diligence and to enjoy your conference. Thank you very much.